Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Today we have all of my strongest builds for Helldivers 2 that I've been using to bring moderated democracy to tier 9 Helldive. So much in fact that I did 2 solo no death runs with the strongest of the builds on tier 9 Helldive difficulty, and the other night on stream I did a full breakdown with all of the reasons that I do everything and how everything synergizes together. And like usual, all of my builds are formatted into text guides that are always updated first in the useful stuff channel in my Discord. So both of the solo runs and all that other stuff is linked down below for you already, and this is just going to be a streamlined version of everything with keynotes, because not only are these builds the most fun, they're also the most broken. So we're lighting this off with the strongest build in the entire game, the Emperor. Named after my ship, of course, this build has the perfect synergy to take on any threat at any time, and I use this for the solo no-death Helldive, so I can absolutely guarantee it will solo carry any mission that you bring it to. And starting with the bot version, you lock in with the 500 kg bomb, and I know it can feel inconsistent, but that's because it has verticality issues, which I think is a bug, so if you don't like it, replace it with the Eagle Airstrike, because that works just fine too. It's just that when the 500 kg pops off, it completely steals the show, and honestly, it just looks really cool, so you can't really ask for anything else. Then the shield generator backpack saves you from getting sniped by Dominator rockets. This is really important because they will pre-fire you before you turn a corner, and they also head glitch like it's Call of Duty but with a rocket backpack, so it's the ultimate noob tube, and this is basically just a counter cheese measure. And then the handheld railgun on unsafe mode is our cheese. It completely deletes all of the biggest robo threats that would dare try and take away your freedom. And the biggest recommendation for me is to always use this thing in unsafe mode. If you do make a mistake, just let the shot go off into the sky. You can also solo drop and just practice shooting it at nothing to find that sweet spot. That way you don't end up like this. Then finally you take the orbital laser. This is the big panic button, and it performs insanely well against the bots. It takes out a large outpost by itself, and even though it has a long cooldown, it's a great way to take control of any mission or recover when too many flares go off. The game starts snowballing out of control when that happens. There's tanks, there's dreadnoughts, and this thing takes care of all of them. So all 4 of these strats combined perfectly counter anything the bots can throw at you, and our whole kit is about synergy and countering our enemies. Because when you don't counter the bots, they become a little bit of a problem. As for our weapons, we take the SSG-225 Breaker. Everyone that's been playing knows this full out of shotgun might as well be renamed to Freedom because that's all it gives to the enemies. Then the P19 Redeemer is my favorite sidearm because it lets you run and gun and clean the targets up that are chasing you, and its overall damage is just amazing. And you really can't beat how consistent it is. Then for our booster, we want to run Stamina Enhancement. This combined with Light Armor lets you dive as much as you need to, and the most important things in this game are movement and situational management. And these two combined give you everything you need to constantly reposition and kite when you need to, giving you that breathing room and a chance to think about what to do next. Then for grenades, usually I take the G12 High Explosive, but I really like taking the Impact Grenade too, and I think this comes down to personal preference, but I feel like the Impact Grenade's a lot better at killing the things that usually one-shot you. And versus the Termanids, being able to pop the Poison Boys instantly gives you a lot of freedom, and the Termanid version of the Emperor build is all about freedom. So we'll be running it with the same weapon, armor, and booster loadout, but we do have to change up our stratagems a bit to counter the bug menace. So I swapped the 500 kg bomb for the Eagle Cluster because it's so good at clearing out all the light and medium targets that can call in more reinforcements for the bugs, and the only thing to note is that this thing is an absolute team-killing machine, so make sure you throw it in good spots. But if you can't get used to it, the 500 kg bomb is still amazing for basically everything the bugs have, and then the normal Eagle Airstrike is also good too. They both have a great place in this build to take out everything, but the most important part of this entire thing is going to be the Orbital Rail Cannon Strike. This is the panic removal of the biggest threats to you, and in a team where you have 4 of these, the Bile Titans never even have a chance to become a problem. And without their big boys, the bugs start falling apart pretty quickly. Then the shield still gets a ton of value, but you can get crushed using it, so be careful. It just mainly stops you from getting yeeted across the map by stalkers, and basically just prevents you from getting ragdolled by almost every single bug attack. Getting ragdolled will be the majority of your deaths versus the Termanids, so preventing that from ever being a problem is really, really important. And with our extra unsafe railgun, we can also take out the big guys in 5 hits with well-placed headshots. You can also blow pieces off of the charger, then dump your shotgun into them to finish it off, but the reason you don't see me doing that in solos is because you need to keep your shotgun ready to clear out the chaff. That way you don't get overwhelmed. But in group play, that's probably one of the better ways to end up dealing with them. The other night on stream, we did run 4 of these builds together, and it completely trivialized every single mission that we brought it to. We also tried the Arcthrower out with this build, but the accidental TKs from how far it can bounce are surprising to say the least. So unless all 4 people have shields, I really don't like recommending it, but the game we played as 4 Bug Zapper shows how amazing it can really be when you all work together with it. And I have a solo game with it for you guys that can show what it can really do, so it's a solid alternative weapon to the Emperor build. Now, the reason this is called a GG build is because that's what you get to type at the end of the mission after you've solo carried it. I do these for every game that I play, and the main purpose of this is to help you get into higher tiers and learn the game faster. That way you can get better rewards. They're also super easy to play, and they give you a ton of mistakes. That way you can focus on the situations in front of you and how to handle them. That way you can improve faster. But of course, we also have a support build that hard carries any team that you bring it to. The weapon loadout doesn't change at all because it's such a good baseline, but the supply backpack is so clutch that anytime you have one of these on your team, it's a night and day difference that feels so good to have. It gives everybody the ability to spray down and not think about how much ammo you're using. It's honestly just a great peace of mind. Plus, the extra stims gives everyone even more mistakes, and the bonus grenades are super underrated. It gives your team all those extra options to deal with everything, which is just a massive W, and that's why expendable anti-tanks or eats is always so good, even on the hardest difficulty. At every stage of this game, they always get value, and in my first 4-man Helldive, which is on day 2 of the game, none of us were level 20. One of my friends was even just level 9, but because he brought these in a recoilless launcher, it let us take out any of the big threats and let us grind through it. But the thing that I like about Eats the most is that everyone can use them quickly, and it doesn't take up anyone's backpack slot, which is super valuable. Finally, versus the bugs, I think you should bring the grenade launcher. It deletes the poison and artillery bugs in one good shot and can clear out a horde with no issues, but versus the bots, I would swap the GL for a railgun, and with -1 strat, I would just keep 1 Eats on your back at all times. I personally think the support builds are super underrated, and I love playing this role for my team, and even though I'm calling it a support build, it absolutely can hard carry any group that you're in. I also have a build for the new mission that people were saying was close to impossible on tier 9, where you have to rescue the dudes in 15 minutes, and I'm not trying to downplay that at all because it is pretty insane, but this made it very manageable. So we ran 4 EMS mortars with 2 recoil rifles, 1 railgun, and 1 autocannon. This lets you handle every enemy very quickly, and the rockets let you take out the tanks fast. You can snipe the dropships, but we found it was pretty inconsistent, so we just started focusing on the tanks. Then 4 orbital lasers let you reset when things get overwhelming. You don't have to use them all at the same time, but if you throw 2 out, the entire map gets cleared and it gives you that breathing room you need to basically reset your mental while you get ready for the next waves. Then after that, we took 4 clusters for frequency and chaff clear. You just get so many of them that it ends up working out. And usually I don't like taking cluster versus bots, but because they're so tightly packed and there's so many of them, it gets a ton of value. You should also have at least 2 people bringing smoke grenades because they force the bots to walk in on you, and it doesn't take away 25% of your power in a stratagem slot. This was the main game changer for us that let us take home the win, and the only tip I have for you is to keep hitting the buttons on cooldown to keep the guys running because they pull threat, and you only need a few of them to keep getting through at a time for you to take home the W. And if you want to watch the full game, I posted this one on my alt channel, and hopefully this helps you guys out. So those are all of my end game builds, and you can get the sub build basically up and running by level 10, which is really nice, but I know a lot of people haven't gotten there yet, so with chat, we theory crafted the best early game build that any new player can bring and have a huge impact on any mission that's super cheap on requisition early on. That way you can save up to get the good stuff when you need it. And of course, eventually you do unlock everything. You just get a little starred for rec at the start from like levels 5 to 10. So this is supposed to help curve that. And for weapons, until you get the shotgun, just use the Liberator. It's a really well-balanced weapon, then just upgrade accordingly. As for strats, the Stalwart is honestly a great all-around early game weapon that you can just keep spraying down, and it has a ton of ammo, and it lets you clean hordes out by yourself. You can also use the machine gun, but I just like the Stalwart more because you can move around. It gives you a little bit more mobility, and it's overall just a lot easier to use. Then combined with Eats, it lets you take care of everything by yourself, and the Orbital Precision Strike is something that I used basically until I hit level 20, and I still really miss it sometimes. The low cooldown gives you a really solid option to deal with most enemies, and it's really good for starting engagements. This combined with the Eagle Airstrike lets you WQ in and handle most situations, and these 4 strats combined have really great early game synergy to deal with any threat. One thing to note is that the anti-material rifle is amazing versus the bots, and you should probably use that over the Stalwart or the machine gun if you are fighting them. As for our mid-game build, you can see we don't really change up a lot here, but we do start taking the autocannon. This thing is so satisfying to use, and it's an absolute beast. When you start popping shots into bot weak points, you can kill basically anything they have in 2 to 3 hits, and it's just ridiculously fun to use. It's probably the coolest weapon in the entire game, in my opinion. I also think the best way to run it is to pick up your own ammo backpack because you get so many shots and the reloads pretty fast by itself, but if you do have a buddy running it with you, the spray down can just be ridiculously fun. But probably the most fun and cinematic build that I played revolved around the laser cannon. I know most people think it's bad, but this is one of the coolest moments I've ever seen on Helldivers, so I had to share it with you. All four of us pulled up with this thing, and we were just giggling the entire time after we got used to it. I know you're not supposed to cross the beams, but we couldn't help it, and after our first game with it, we wanted to evolve it and started taking the laser guard dog with it, which turned it into pure chaos. Seeing the laser beams go off everywhere is just insanely cool. The only problem with the laser cannon is it really doesn't have any armor penetration, so we started using eats to blow pieces off the bugs. That way we could cook them with laser justice. This probably isn't like a god tier build by any means, but it is ridiculously fun, and that's why I had to share it with you guys, because it ended up being one of the coolest and most fun games that I played so far. I also do have one last build for our turret enjoyers. The only thing is that the turrets need to have really good positioning or they just get taken out instantly, and it's one of those builds that you should play after you learn more of the game because it requires you to think ahead and plan out where you'll be taking fights. In my experience, it also needs really good communication to get the most out of it. Just don't sleep on the turrets because they can be insanely clutch if someone's good with them. And the alternative version of this build for extermination missions, you just take the EMS mortar and normal mortar. I'm pretty sure most people know this already, but it just trivializes both the bot and Termanid versions of this mission. The main engineer build does require all the upgrades in the robotics workshop for it to start feeling good to play, and the last thing I have to talk about is what I think is the best possible ship module upgrade order. It takes a long time to get all of the green samples, but the orange and pink come pretty fast. And the reason I upgraded turrets first is because I think they're cool, which is a perfectly fine way to do things, but if you don't want to waste samples because it takes so much grinding to get them all, I would recommend starting with donation access license. Blue weapons get the most value at every stage of the game, and this ends up being definitively the best upgrade you can take. Then exploding shrapnel makes your precision airstrike have a lot more consistency, and this is also extremely valuable. But after that, make sure you take all 3 hanger upgrades. They turn your planes into a hard carry tool and make them way more fun to use. Then after that, go for more guns in 0G breach loading. The 10% CDR for rail cannon and laser are massive. Then you want to go for cooldown reduction on blue weapons and backpacks. This is what I should have done, but I just wanted to test all the turret strats out first. But after that, you can kind of just get whatever you feel like. Hellpod power steering is really fun, but at that stage of the game, you're kind of just grinding to unlock all the hanger upgrades anyways. And the things I listed are what I think gets the most value early on. But if you guys think I'm sleeping on one, just let me know. The games still really do, so I probably missed something. And if you have a really fun build you want me to try out, drop it down below as well. There's a really high chance I'll just play it on stream and just hell dive in with it for fun and get the boys to 4-stack it with me for the memes. That's how the laser build was born, and I hope to start seeing a lot more fun combinations from everybody. I also do need to thank everybody for all the love and support on the lives recently. I really appreciate it. Honestly, just hearing all the kind words from everybody is always just super nice. So just thank you. And if you did enjoy this, make sure you drop it a like, but that's going to be all for now. And I wish you the best of luck out there. No shot, 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 no shot. Yes!